Great. So I'm Karen, an international sports psychologist, and this is Omnipresence Talk in Action, and I have the absolute honor and pleasure to be speaking to Rohit. Like I kind of mentioned earlier on my babble, I met Rohit during my time in Dubai. So yeah, Rohit, kind of give us a brief intro to who you are, what you do, and how you got into triathlon.
Well, long story short, I've always been sportive. I've always loved sport. I played sort of semi-pro cricket and squash for a number of years. Finished university, came to Dubai, did the whole corporate gig for about, I would say about 12 years. I was of course a bit of a fatty, and then when I met my wife Swati, it went the other way, and I kind of lost my weight and got nice and fit. And squash and cricket were good fun. Mm-hmm. And then in one of my last jobs in the corporate side of the world, I was handling a swimwear brand, and we went over to a sales meeting to Rotterdam, and they showed a video about triathlons. There was Ironman Wales and Ironman Barcelona, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I came back home and I told Swati, I'm like, you know what, Ironman seems interesting. I'd love to give it a go. She, being her supportive self, said, yep, go for it. I'm like, yeah, but I kind of don't know how to swim. I mean, I can just about swim, but I don't really know how to swim, especially like a 1.9 kilometer swim or a 3.8. I was like, no, I didn't know what I was doing. So, at that time, I think we connected.
Yeah.
And I talked about it, and we talked about, look for a coach. And, we found somebody to give us a bit of a heads up. And I signed up for an Ironman I think it was 2015 to do Ironman Kalmar, which was, I think, August. And I officially started training probably January of 2015.
Yeah.
I got to about March, and I was like, yeah, the swim isn't happening. Just not going to happen. And then then talking to a friend of mine who was also who's into Ironman as well, said, you know what, I'm doing a race. I'm doing a 70.3 in June. Why don't you do that and see if you can get through that, then decide on the other race. I said, listen, I can't do the full, but let's give the half, because apparently it was an epic location to do. So I ended up signing up for Ironman Crash Cow in Germany for like the day after my birthday. So, trained as hard as I could, got there, had never done a deep water start in my life. Had only swum in the ocean maybe a couple of times. One of them with you when we went out to sea and swam out to the middle of the ocean, and then I just absolutely freaked out and just didn't realize, oh my God, I've got to swim all the way back. How am I going to get back? I made it back because obviously I'm here now, so we obviously made it back.
We survived that, yep.
The swim started, and the cutoff for the swim was an hour, 10 minutes. I think I came out in about an hour and 30 seconds. I think Swati probably thought I was not going to come out, but I just about made it last my age group. Got through the bike, got through the run, and then got through my first half Ironman in 6:41, and that's history.
Amazing. Yeah, I remember some of the struggles we had when it came to swimming, the training we did together as well, the running and stuff. So it was awesome.
And you coming to watch my first ever super sprint, remember?
Yes, I remember that with my crazy...
You had your crazy board, and I had to swim 375 meters, and I still came out last in my age group, which was kind of embarrassing. But yeah.
Hey, that's how it started off that way, and look where you are now. It's been an amazing transition from where you started to where you are now. So. Yeah,
I mean, it's been 5 years now. I just finished my 10th half Ironman and the one full. So far so good.
Yeah. So what are some of the highlights from your triathlon career or your sporting career?
I'd probably say doing my first half, and then luckily through a roll down, getting a slot at the World Championships, which was great.
Yeah.
Which was in Australia, and then not realizing that me and my other friend were the first ever Indians to ever qualify for the World Championships in the history of the event, which was very awesome. Cool. We got interviewed in Australia. We had the consulate in Brisbane, message us. It was just unbelievable experience, and to race that. I would say probably one of the second most was actually after. I mean, I did a race in Goa in October a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
And I told Swati that I said, if there's a chance that I get to go to the World Championships again, I wouldn't take it as a roll down because I wanted to officially try to qualify. And then Goa, I came, I think, ninth in my age group and qualified for the World Champs. And of course, because of COVID, it being delayed, so it's going to happen next year. But that was probably the second highlight. So that was pretty cool. And then being able to do a full Ironman sort of in pretty much 4 months of training after 2 prolapse discs was quite an achievement.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, those 3 were probably my top 3.
Yeah. So what do you feel are some of the factors that have helped you achieve some of your goals that have contributed to your success?
I mean, of course, I'm very lucky to the fact that we live in Dubai, which has pretty much, access to facilities everywhere. Where I live now, I'm pretty much, I've got a community pool, which is about a 5-7 minute walk, which is a 22-meter pool. I've got a gym if I need to run indoors, and I've got the indoor trainer set up here in the room that I'm in. But worst case scenario, when the weather gets better, then I've got the Al Qudra cycling track, which is pretty much anything in the vicinity of, 36 to almost 220 kilometers worth of bike track, literally a 5-minute drive from my house.
Okay.
And I don't think in a lot of countries you have access to that. That's sort of, like in Europe, of course, you can ride out and ride the mountains. You find a pool, and the weather is generally good enough to run outside. In places like, I've got friends in India who find it to be such a struggle, especially with lockdown and everything else. So that made a big difference. I think also in the field that I'm in, because I'm in fitness right now, it made it a bit more difficult to get the time to train. I think if I was in a proper corporate job, it'd be a lot more of a struggle. Of course, paramount to that fact is, of course, that Swati my wife kind of supports me throughout everything that I do. So that makes a big difference. She understands that. Of course, now life is a bit different because I've got a 2-year-old son, so it makes it a bit more of a struggle. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's still, that support is so highly needed, because at the end of the day, sometimes if I want to take care of Rahman, but I have to get a training session done, she'll kind of help out. But otherwise, just support being there, and she's been there for every single one of my 70.3s or my pulls, whether normal, whether pregnant, or with Rahman when he was 6 months old in Goa there. So she's always been there, which has always been an added positive.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and that's how I always know what's going on, because she keeps on posting everything on Instagram, which is awesome. So no matter where I am, I know how you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So how much do you think of your sport is mental?
Oh, I think a lot of it is mental. At the end of the day, for whether you do a 70.3 or a full, you don't have access to music. Music is a lot of people can't work out without music. I go through phases where I kind of desperately need it. Like some days, like when you're riding indoors, like I'm an indoor trainer, to not have music is hard when you're just in one room looking at a screen, and then you're just seeing yourself as a bike kind of, avatar kind of riding. More than anything, the music kind of, it gives you a bit of an oomph you need, especially like on a run. When you're running and you have a certain track that comes on that just, you could be dead tired, but that track comes on that makes life a lot more difficult, a lot more easier, and it just makes everything so much easier. So the mental strength or the mental part of it is massive. I do go through phases where I do a lot of sessions where I will not take music with me. Like I'll do a couple of runs but do not have music. I'll do a couple of long rides where I won't have music. I might go through a phase of a bit of Netflix on a bike for half an hour, then go down to music for the next half an hour, and then for the next hour I'll take out music completely and see if I can still maintain the rhythm that I'm going, only to kind of test myself. Race day, I never usually have a problem. I don't really have a problem on race day. I kind of do my own thing, but yeah, training, it can be hard.
Yeah. So
mental strength is really, really important.
So what are some of the tools other than music that you use to kind of get that mental strength? Because, like you said, during race day, you have the fans in the audience there, the supporters there that kind of push you on. But training, especially the stuff you guys, it's swimming, it's running, it's biking, it's tough. It's long distances that you're out there. Without music, how do you kind of push yourself to go through it? Or what are some of the other mental tools?
Sometimes I kind of, because like example, especially with swim sets, I've always had like a lot of people have them written down at the end of the pool, and they just have it written down. They'll finish off their one bit of the set. They'll read what they got to do next, and they go on. But for me, the way I've always been, I kind of memorize the sets with all everything that I need to know about the set is in my head. I know exactly what this is I've got to cover. So I kind of just get to the point where I think about myself that either I break the set down into portions, almost like into quarters. So I know I've done 25%. I've got to 50. Once I know I've passed 50%, I find that it gets a lot easier because I know it's kind of down. And it's almost like counting down from 10 down to 1 because you've gone from double digits down to single digits. It makes me a lot easier.
Yeah.
On the bike or in the run, sometimes I think about a song that kind of is in my head and I kind of let it stick in my head. Both with the run and the bike, I kind of like to have a nice, when you get to that point on the run where you're kind of just flowing and you're running to almost like running to a beat. I kind of search for that both on the bike and on the run, and that helps me a lot. It just I just realize that I'm in kind of a zone and I'm kind of just at ease. When I know like I'm kind of shifting a lot on the run, or I feel like the bike's kind of shifty, then I know that I'm struggling. I need to calm myself down and just kind of focus on getting that rhythm. So I really try to almost keep like a beat, like with the pedaling, it's kind of like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Same with the run. It's just making sure that as long as I think of the few things that are really important, whether it be, me looking straight ahead, whether my arms are kind of going side to side, and I keep thinking about holding my run form. So those are the things, kind of like a little checklist with me, make a big difference.
Yeah, so it's just focusing on the things that you need to do and not thinking too far ahead. Yeah, perfect.
Exactly, yeah.
Because that's what a lot of people, I think, tend to do, especially when they're starting their running careers. They go, they're focusing on the whole distance they need to do in training instead of focusing on what they need to do now or focusing on their technique to find that rhythm. It's all, I think, no matter what sport you do, it's about that feel. I'm running, I know, like I run myself, so it is about finding that feel, making sure it feels right. You have that rhythm that you need, the pace that you need, and being able to adjust. And the only way you can adjust is if you're in the present moment and not focusing on the finish line.
Yeah, there's no point running a half marathon in the worst form of your life, because at the end of the day, what you're going to do at the end of it is you're just gonna hurt yourself. A lot of people, I think, when they go, whether it's on the run, whether it's the bike or the swim, will always get that distance done to start off with, and you'll see over time there'll be small changes made that will improve their technique and make them not be injured. So at the end of the day, it's a good thing to kind of stick in your head, knowing that, focus on that rhythm, example, especially with the swim for me, I've gone over the last few months where following what, Lionel Sanders kind of says is, rather than trying to swim and push yourself through the water and fight the water, really try and feel the water.
Yeah.
Being one with the water is not happening yet, but it's getting a lot better. It is getting, I go through phases where sometimes I feel like I swim like an absolute dream. I go through phases when it's not there at all, but I know that if I can make those small bits of, consistencies kind of longer and longer over that longer period, I'll be a lot better as a swimmer. So that's the way I do it with the bike and the run. On the bike, I might go through days when I hit some awesome numbers with power, but I know that if I can keep those little bits of good phases and get them a little bit bigger, even if it's small, over a long period of time, it'll get better.
Yeah. So how do you kind of keep yourself motivated when you've had some of the not so decent sessions or races that didn't quite, because I know you've had races that didn't quite go according to plan, or certain sections of it. How do you keep yourself motivated to keep going out there, to keep trying, keep going on?
A good example was probably Dubai this year. Dubai this year, I had this sort of, strong target with my new coaches saying, I'm gonna aim to go sub 5 hours. I got really close in 2020. I got to 5:08 in 2020, and I thought that it's not that far off for me to hit sub 5. And Dubai and places like Dubai and Bahrain are probably the best places to do it. And coming into Dubai this year, I felt great. I was a lot stronger on the bike. My swim felt better. The run felt good. But things just didn't go right in the day. It was a lot hotter, obviously, because the race happened about 6 weeks later than normal. But even taking that out of the equation, I think that, little bits and pieces that I need to work on didn't work. And all I thought about after the race was, it didn't go to plan. I went through a point where I remember telling Swati, like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go to the finish, even though I'm on my first lap of the run. We had to do like 1.5 laps. I'm just going to go to the finish line and pretend I finished. We're just going to walk off because I'm done. And I was lucky enough to, meet one of my old swim coaches on the course, Brett, and he kind of just said, you know what, doesn't matter how you're going, just finish. Just finish. If it goes bad, you need to have. I mean, he just said you need to have these bad races, and I completely agree. Not every race is going to be about you getting that time further down. It happened a couple of years ago when that happened as well. So all I did now was I finished the race, talked about it with my coaches, just took a bit of a break. I've done a lot of maintenance sort of based training at the minute, and the plan is still the same. It doesn't change. I'm hoping that if things go well, that over the next 18 months up until December of next year, I can get 4 70.3s in. I was supposed to do a full Ironman. I scrapped that. And you know what? I want to get faster with the 70.3.
Yeah.
Plus, it gives me more time to basically spend at home and be with Arman and Swati. And I think training for a full isn't the best time. I want to give Arman more time. So the plan is the same. I'm still motivated. I've got Bahrain to do in December, Dubai to do next year. And the aim is to go sub 5. And then if I didn't make it last time, I'm going to get it this time. I'm just going to make a few tweaks to see what I can do to make things different. I know that there are a couple of changes I could make, and I'm going to make those changes once the race calendar opens up and I sign up. Then I'll make those changes in terms of like riding more outdoors that I didn't do enough of before Dubai. Keep on running outdoors. So all those little things I'm just going to try and do.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I know a lot of people kind of do have that attitude sometimes that they want to give up, but it's important to still find a way to keep going, get back into it, and work on those little changes, because it tends to be those smaller things that, it's minor tweaks here and there that make a big difference.
For sure. I mean, like it literally is the small things. Like the one thing that I've done over the last maybe couple of months is, even probably more than a couple months, I've been sleeping a lot better. My sleep is that my sleep has been always pretty bad. I average probably between 4 to 5 hours of sleep a day, which is nothing. And I don't even nap. I don't know how I do it, but I do it. And I've made the conscious effort to at least take that up by about an hour and a half, at least. There are days where I hit 7.5 hours of sleep. Like last night, I slept about 7.5 hours. Not necessarily it was quality-wise maybe not the best, but 7.5 is still better than 5 hours.
Yep.
So, and I'm definitely. I'm trying not to do what I did before, was kind of trying to do too much. I wasn't trying to trying to overtrain and do other stuff. So I'm just focusing on just keeping things a bit simpler. And definitely like the extra sleep makes a big difference. So hopefully going forward, I can keep with those numbers of sleep, and that'll make a massive difference for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Are there any mental skills that you use during competition? I know we've talked about the mental skills like music and stuff that you use during training. What are some of the things you implement during competition? If any at all?
So before a race, if there's a chance for a swim warm-up, I've stuck with a lot of things that one of my first swim coaches, Rory, has always told me, is like it's not even a mental thing. It's kind of it's almost like a routine to follow just to get yourself warmed up and ready for the race. I've usually just gone to a swim, literally rocked up, put the wetsuit on, stretched a bit, and that's about it. Nothing else. You might jump in the water and swim for a little bit and come back, and you feel like, I'm good and warm. But when we have a chance to kind of do a swim practice, I've done kind of a bit of a 5-minute. I've followed the fact of giving a 5-minute job, jumping in the water, doing a bit of speed work with my hands, do a bit of, in and outs of the water just to sort of get the heart rate up to feel what it's going to be like when it's going to get up during the race. Because the first, when you start the race, everybody goes in, the heart rate just spikes. So just you're getting your body getting used to it. I do that for about 5 to 7 minutes just to get myself sort of heart rate and body ready. That's the swim side of it. Mentally when I get out of the water or when I get onto the run, I literally it's almost like I have a checklist in my head where I kind of think that when I'm getting on the run, make sure wake up your glutes because they're going to be switched off after the bike. That's the kind of thing I do. On the bike, same thing, just get into rhythm. Once you're in a rhythm, then just let it flow. And that's pretty much it. On the bike and on the run, sometimes I just have songs that play in my head, but that's pretty much about it. it sounds weird, but it is completely you versus kind of you on that race day.
Yeah. But I mean, it's in every sport you do, it's always you versus you. It's never, you're never really competing against others, no matter what level you're at. If you're at the beginning, if you're the elite guys fighting for first place, or you're at the end, even it's them competing against themselves, because your biggest competitor is you.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, kind of slight change of topic. As you said, you grew up in Dubai, but you've sort of, you studied abroad. How is that, you're Indian, growing up in Dubai and living abroad? How are you able to, how did you adjust? How did you transition from one country to another?
So I mean, so I was born in Birmingham because my family were working there for 11 years. We moved here in 81 when Dubai was practically so new. Schooling in Sharjah, and then of course just school was great. It was a nice sort of way of getting things done, and then when I went to university back in the UK, it was a complete different sort of life to get used to. Living on my own, cooking for myself, making new friends in a completely different new country. So it was a great experience. And then of course I came back, then to come back to now start a working life in Dubai, which was something very, very new. It's a lot to take in from when you're growing up in a I'd say very sheltered household, then going to UK and kind of growing up as a university kid and being able to go out and party, and then come back to Dubai and you're back home, and then you're now going to work a job and do this whole serious thing. Did that for a number of years, and then luckily, when I met my wife Swati, that we ended up doing our MBAs together. We did our MBAs together in Birmingham, which was something I don't think a lot of people get to do the MBAs with their wives. And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because we went through highs and lows of university life and everything else together, and it was just a great experience. And then back to the corporate world, and then the whole idea of changing jobs to move from the whole corporate side to fitness was very hard. You went through phases of, all these little experiences, and being from where I'm from with an Indian background and brought up, living in the UK, and it's with the different backgrounds and the different experiences I've had, they made me very strong. I think my personality from 6 years ago to now is very, very different. I think 6 years ago I was kind of more of a negative person, and almost like I'm hard on myself, but I was more negative, and a bit more. What's the word? I don't think I was very strong mentally or strong as a person. And I think over 6 years, I've become a lot more of an extrovert. I mean, from being able to PT a client to now being able to teach a class on a mic with 35 people, I could not have done that 5 years ago. No way. And then it's been a roller coaster ride, but it's been a good one because it's just changed me a lot.
Yeah. All right.
For the better, I hope.
Definitely for the better. Well, yeah. I know that, and I think that's important. Like the things you learn in sport, being surrounded by people, they kind of do reflect, or you take a lot of that stuff into your everyday life, and it helps you grow, and vice versa. Stuff that from your work life you take into your sporting life, the challenges you face in either of them help you grow, and you can use those strategies that you use to get better.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. There are always little things that you might do, playing sport that you kind of use in the real life that kind of, helps you with that as well. That always little tricks of the trade that help.
Yeah. All right. As you said, you live in Dubai and you're surrounded by athletes from all over the world. Have you noticed any differences on how they approach the mental side? Do you guys even talk about the mental side of triathlon, or swimming, running, cycling?
I think the weird thing is that, like, everybody's got their own way of doing their own things about how they train. I mean, I've got a couple of friends now who are training to do a full Ironman in August, and they're kind of the way they're training about it. They're planning their own training plan. What are you doing on the? You ask them what they're doing on the side, and they don't really. I mean, some of them don't have a plan. They don't have really a mental part of it. They've got their own sort of way of doing things. Other people, I think the most important thing, I think, when it comes to sport is to learn to switch off.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I could probably be better at. I know, like, I've got a couple of friends I've got a friend of mine who's got 3 kids. They're triplets, and he went from one of the first guys to have severe COVID and being in the hospital struggling, a pretty decent triathlete, like an awesome swimmer, awesome on the bike, very average runner, to now he's another level. Like, after this whole reset, it's another level. He appreciates his family as much as he did before, but they're always, like that second sort of part of his life. Like, he'd have all his Instagram videos of him training, but there's a big chunk of him with his family. I think that's where he learns to switch off, and I think you need that.
Yeah.
I think if you don't switch off enough, you just get too engrossed with what you're doing. And sometimes I fall in that trap where I keep on thinking about my training the following day, and I sometimes need to switch off and not think about it. I used to get really, really irritated when I'd have a training plan to do and I wouldn't be able to finish it. Whereas now I kind of, I'm, like, let's say, example, this morning I had to do a 2-hour ride. I only got in maybe an hour 15 because we had a lot of work happening at home. Usually I'd be pretty irritated and probably think about the fact that, I'm going to come back tonight. Swati's going to go out for dinner and I'm going to finish in the next 45 minutes, which, to be honest, it's not going to really make any benefit to me to do that 45.
Yeah.
But then I made sure what I did was, when I knew I was going to do that, I made sure that when I was on the bike for the 1 hour 15, I went hard on that 1 hour 15 to kind of make it count. And then I switched off. I'm not going to do it in the evening. It's at the end of the day, it's something that both my current coaches and my previous coach said to me: if a session is done, forget about it, move on, next one.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I think a lot of people do that I'm learning to do a lot more of, is to kind of move on and as well as switch off at points.
Yeah. I know overtraining is a lot of, like you said, sometimes, you kind of, if you've missed a session, you feel like you have to complete it or add more into it. But do you feel now that you've learned to kind of accept that sometimes it doesn't go according to plan, that it's actually better? It's more often now, having Arman in my life, that it happens more often. Plus, I mean, of course, the fact that I've kind of been, working around jobs and stuff like that, but I've kind of just not let it bother me. I've just, I've had days when I've had 50-minute run sessions and I've only got in maybe the main set of 30 minutes. But I'm like, it's fine. At the end of the day, I know that, like, right now, the one thing that I should be realizing is that I actually don't have a race. There's no race that's actually on the calendar that I'm signed up to go for. So realistically, do I need to really be that hard on myself? No. Yeah, if Ironman Bahrain opens, I want to give myself a good sort of 3 or 4 months of training. Then we'll be a bit more different. We'll be a bit more stricter, and I'll kind of, as the months go on, I'll get a bit harder with myself because I know I'm training for a race. But if I haven't got one on, at the end of the day, training something is better than training nothing. Yeah. So that's what I've tried to do going forward. I think that's a positive that I've done. Awesome. All right. As you mentioned, you are a husband, you are a dad, you have a job. You train. How do you bring it all under one umbrella?
So the way we've kind of done it in such a way at home, whereby it's just really kind of planning things out. I mean, I make sure that unless I'm going to do a lifting session in the evening, which is only on a Monday, where Swati sometimes joins in, I don't do any training sessions in the evening. So when I come back home, I'm done with training. There's no training that's going to come into the picture, which of course might change when races come. But there's no training that comes in the picture. So that is completely. I try to come home as early as I can, so that at least I can see Arman before he goes to bed. Sometimes I don't. I miss that opportunity, but then it's just me and Swati chilling at home. Yeah. 2 days of the week, it's always been that I always pick up Arman from nursery because I'm out of the house pretty much at 6:30 every morning. I can never drop into nursery, which is kind of crap because I like dropping into nursery. I like picking him up. So 2 days a week, I will always pick him up from nursery, which is always fun. And Swati picks him up the other 3 days. And, we luckily have some house help, which is great. But the great thing is that I've always, with trying to plan the training around work, my coach, Cody, in Canada, he's been helping me out a lot where he's kind of just, most coaches have, I kind of give them my schedule and based on that, he'll do my training peaks and then we might sort of rejig it here and there, but most of the time it works out pretty well. The days that it doesn't, I'll let him know before. And then, Swati and I always try to keep at least 1 day a week where we kind of have like a date night, either it's chilling outside or it's just going to the movies. Something like that. Of course, it's, with COVID, you got to be a bit more careful. But yeah, we try to keep 1 day where we kind of get out. Fridays, like Fridays used to be, and that from Dubai, Friday's always the long bike day where everybody goes on a long bike. I literally do not, I don't do a long bike on a Friday. I do my long bikes usually on a Saturday. I did this morning. Yes. So Friday is literally the 1 day where Swati will maybe lie in bed and Arman will wake up. So I'll go get him from bed. I'll give him his milk. He'll chill in bed with us while we watch whatever cartoons he wants to watch. And the only thing I'll do on a Friday will be a lifting session, but that's just about 45 minutes. And Arman kind of joins in. He joins in and plays around outside with us. Once that's done, we take him because he started swimming about 5 weeks ago. So then I kind of I will go with him for that swim session. Swati will watch and I'll go in with it. So it gives me my day with day with Arman, which is great. Yeah. And then the Saturdays we usually do our chores, but it's planned out relatively well to the point that it's another reason why I didn't want to do my full. It's not fair to give Swati to do everything. It's just not. At the end of the day, she works as well. She's got a brand new job coming up. She works as well, and it's only fair that I try to help out as much as I can. I'm not perfect, but I'm getting better. And I would never be a father in that respect who would not want to help. Yeah. I don't want to be that dad who doesn't want to touch changing diapers and all that stuff. It's something that I've always wanted. It's weird because with my nieces and nephews, I didn't change a single diaper. Okay. With my nieces and nephews, I held my first niece when she was about 9 months. I held my first nephew when he was about 6 or 7 months. My third nephew was about 3 months, and then my sister's twins I held when they were pretty young. Okay. Because I was always scared of picking up a baby. I always got worried about dropping a baby. And then as soon as Arman was there, I was like, now I have to hold him because he's my son. So which has made me a lot more hands-on. Yeah. And we manage it pretty well. If there are days where, there are days where, things maybe don't get managed well and we have a bit of an argument about it, but then if it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be ideal, but it's a work in progress. Every day is a work in progress. Yeah. But yeah, as you said, it's all about compromise and being there for each other and supporting each other. So, exactly. And then you can find that balance that you need between training, work, and family, because that's really important to find that balance. Yeah, and that's the biggest reason why I said that there was no point in me doing a full Ironman now. I'd rather do a full when Arman's a lot older, where he can kind of understand and, if I was to do, let's say, 1 in 3 years, then he'd be 5. It'd be a lot more manageable for him to travel and to go for a race than right now. And then to put in the 20 hours a week where he is, it's like, I don't want to do that. You do quite a bit during a half Ironman, but it's still a lot more manageable than, 6 hours on the bike. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. All right. I know a lot of people might not know how old you are and will not approach that, but I know you kind of started taking triathlon really serious at an older age. So you weren't in your 20s when you started. So just kind of what made you think or feel like, age doesn't matter. I can still do this. Yeah. And I'm just kind of dropping my camera now. Honestly, I've always been pretty active. And with triathlons coming, like I said, I wish I'd taken them up in the 20s. I would have been, so much of a better athlete, I think, if I was in my 20s. But it's a great challenge at the end of the day. It's a great challenge. At the end of the day, I know I've met people who are 50 plus, and they are some decent athletes. I mean, they're like decent. I mean, I know. I don't know if you remember like told me like Andy Edwards, he's in his 40s and he's in the 45 to 49 age group category, and he just about a month and a half ago won his age group in Ironman Tulsa to qualify for Kona for the second time, and he ran 9:32 for that Ironman. Came out on the swim first and was first all the way through. Now let's say, I not that I can't. I might not win my age group, but I'm definitely getting the aim for me to do triathlons wasn't just to kind of do them and finish. Yeah. I wanted to be more competitive, and that's the main thing. To finish one is great. The first one I wanted to finish, but now I know I can try to be more competitive. Whether it's not necessarily with the top dogs of age group, if I can just be more competitive with people to the point that people can turn around and say, Rohit's actually, he's a decent athlete. Like he's not just, he's a triathlete. He's a decent athlete. That's what I want to be remembered as. I want to be remembered as a relatively impressive athlete, even though, I am 42. But there you go.
Well, I already think you're an amazing athlete. So, just looking at the transition you've done from when you started to where you are now, you've definitely improved. And I think that's amazing and inspirational. The fact that you keep pushing yourself no matter, and that age is just a number. It's not something that's going to stop you. And I think a lot of people out there need to know that it doesn't matter how old or young you are. You can start something new and go for it.
Doesn't. It really doesn't. I mean, at the end of the day, of course, I would definitely say that for certain people, certain sports might not necessarily work well with their bodies because maybe their bodies aren't in tune. Like for me, I know, like I love CrossFit. I love lifting, but I know that CrossFit, those core exercise in CrossFit do not suit my body. They don't suit my back, and therefore I know that if I could do it, I'll get stronger, but necessarily it'll hurt me, which means I won't be better at a triathlon. So I've kind of managed my way around now to get a better strength program in that conditions me a lot better. That's not necessarily CrossFit intensive, but then still works well with me, being on my bike and everything else. It's anything, like it is very true with what Ironman says, anything is possible. Yeah. Age is definitely a number. I think doesn't matter how old you are, you want to do a triathlon, as long as you want, like I'm still going to convince, and I will convince Swati to do a triathlon at some point. She will do one. Whether it's a sprint, maybe it's an Olympic, you never know, but at least a sprint, I will definitely get her to do one. That's something that's always been, that'd be very cool to see. I mean, she'll probably hate me after it, but it's fine.
I'm glad I no longer live in Dubai, because I know that was your mission too, for me to do one. So I'm glad I'm away.
it was one of those things. It's like, when you go and especially when you travel for the World Champs. I think we were in the US for the World Champs, and we saw, like this couple about to race together, and I was like, man, that'd be so cool. Yeah. She's just like, shut up. And then we went to the Ironman village, and we're buying some some of the stuff, some of the memorabilia and some of the t-shirts and stuff. She goes, you know what? It'd be quite cool to do it. And then as soon as we exited from the village, actually, no, I don't want to do it. No. So that's definitely in the plan to try to convince her.
Go Swati, I'm going to support you all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anything else that you think the audience needs to know about triathlon, about you, about the mental side of things, training, starting something?
I definitely think that if somebody is going to get into a triathlon, for sure, speak to people who do it, just get an idea of what to expect. Yeah. I definitely think you need a coach, 100%. Always get a coach. Yeah. When you decide on a coach, definitely sort of speak around to vet the coach. Have an idea of what you expect from a coach, because that can be very important. Because do you want a coach first of all, do you want a coach who lives in the same city as you? Yeah. Like I've been very fortunate that I've gone the last, I think, 3 years with coaches who actually don't live here. I had one of my coaches who was in Denmark, and now my current coach is in Canada, but it works relatively well. We Zoom all the time. So it just depends what you need from a coach, what sort of feedback you need. Because a lot of people, I think that's a very strong bit of the mental part of it, is that a coach, if they're active with you and they make the effort, whether they're in the same country or they're not, you need to have that connection. Because if a coach doesn't care about you, it just really hurts you.
Hurts you, yeah.
So I think, definitely look for a coach, and don't get ahead of yourself. Don't do what I almost did, was, sign up for a full Ironman when I never had a clue what a half Ironman was like. I did the sprint. I did a super swim. I did a sprint. I didn't do an Olympic, and I was going to go for a full Ironman. Now, if I was to tell anybody, I'd say, move up step by step.
Yeah.
Do the half first, then do the full. Unless you've given yourself a good 2 years to do it, that's different. But yeah, go with the super sprint. It seems easy now, but on that day, it wasn't as easy. Then go with the sprint, then go with the Olympic. Pick a nice half you want to do. Pick an easy half to get you fueling, to get your confidence levels up. Yeah. And if that goes well, and if you feel like you're ready to go for a full Ironman, then do it. You just plan it out. Speak to people in your community. Speak to people. There's so many triathletes on Instagram who you can connect with. There's so many pros who are actually very nice to speak to, who I've connected to, who are really great. And just take advice. Don't think of it as a competition. Don't compare yourself to other people where they are. It's you versus you, but just get the advice you need, be informed, and then make those decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important to be willing to learn from others. You don't know everything, and there are people out there who've been doing it for longer, and even they ask for information. Like even the top athletes talk to each other and kind of exchange ideas. So be open and willing to learn.
You're never going to get it right straight off the bat. Whether it's nutrition, whether it's strategy on the swim, the run, the bike, there's always going to be room for improvement. And that's where the community is great. Whether it's in Dubai, whether it's in other countries, the triathlon community is a fantastic community to be in. Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to speak to me, and to everyone that tuned. Awesome. And yeah, let's catch up sometime.